Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is chapter 3. Hopefully, you've actually reviewed the video that's supporting this. I'm trying to get myself situated through this camera, so forgive me there a little bit. Okay, that's perfect. I'm going to cover core concepts that you will see in the examination from that perspective. So, we'll go over hardware, software, networking, and security. Can't forget security. All right, let's talk about hardware. I've covered I think some of my videos that I put together really covers the motherboard. Now, again, on the exam, it's just going to ask you some questions related to, what does a motherboard do? What is a control? This is an example of a motherboard that you see here. Again, it's the brains of the operation, I like to say. It's the center hub that is connected and really sends out the signals for all of your items to really be able to work, talk to each other, etc. All right, as I have here is the motherboard is the central hub of a computer system related to processing, memory, and other essential components. Really understanding the different types of motherboards and their compatibility with other hardware components is critical for building and maintaining an efficient IT system. Right? Again, just kind of understand what the motherboard does from that perspective, and then have an understanding again of the supporting devices that would actually be needed to support uh, that can't operate correction without a motherboard from there. The CPU is really the central processing unit, right? It really controls basically logic as it relates to the memory unit, input and output. Definition is the CPU is responsible for executing instructions and performing calculations. The IT professional needs to be familiar with the different processors as it relates to architect speeds to ensure optimal performance in IT systems. Again, focusing more on the definition. If you're willing to take my Network Plus class, I do get into a lot of that more from a technical perspective. RAM really is just about how it stores data. So it's really random access memory, stores data and instructions temporarily while the computer is running. It allows for quick access and retrieval. There's different types of RAM, such as DDR4 and DDR5, should be understood for proper installation and configuration. So you buy a laptop, you could always upgrade the RAM. Same thing with a desktop. It just allows for information to be stored while it's performing a function. So that's really the definition from a RAM perspective. SSD, which is basically solid state drive versus hard disk drive, normally known as HDD. So these are storage devices. Hard drives and solid state drives, SSDs, are critical for storing data and programs. Again, as an IT professional, you should be very familiar with the differences between the various storing devices, including their capacity, speed, and reliability from that perspective. Let's get into software. Now, software, like anything else, is basically the foundation of how you interface with any system. So here you have an iOS system, you have Windows, you have Apple, etc., Linux. So software is the backbone of any system. That is absolutely correct. Operating systems like Windows, Mac OS, Linux, management hardware and software resources. Again, I have here be skilled in how you're going to do installation, configure, and troubleshoot these systems. From an exam perspective, is just more of the terminology. I can tell you practically, again, a lot of these systems come pre-configured with installation. You just have to really follow the prompts for anything related to really the actual install. From my kind of growth in the IT field. In the beginning, yes, I would agree with you and everyone that you kind of had to know more. Nowadays, a lot of these things are very easy to troubleshoot from a software operating system perspective. Applications, again, we all install applications. We install apps. We install different software. I have here applications are programs designed to perform specific tasks. Understanding how to install and update and troubleshoot the application is essential for maintaining a system efficiency. Again, definitions more than anything else. Nowadays, we all could just follow prompts to install an application. Sometimes it may not work and you have to uninstall it and reinstall it again, but it's pretty straightforward. Moving on to networks. Again, what is networking? Really, the different types of network. I covered that in the previous chapter, and again, the videos do cover that. You have a LAN, MAN, WAN, and PAN. So these are just different types of computer networking. So again, understanding the different network types, such as LAN, WANs, wide LANs, is essential, and understanding how to basically set it up and configure and troubleshoot both wired and wireless networks. So again, from an exam perspective, we'll cover some components in chapters to come, but again, just understanding those various types are important. So if you think of network protocols, be very familiar with the various network protocols. Services is necessary for effective networking management. This includes understanding how data is transmitted and received across the networks. As it relates to security, as with anything, make sure you're using best practices related to security. Strong passwords, implementing multi-factor authentication, regular updating software as it relates to patches. It's essential tools for security professionals, including encryption software, intrusion detection systems, and secure network configuration. So again, when you're talking about security in A+, again is focusing more on the hardware components, setting that up, configuring, but of course you want to make sure that security is part of the equation from that perspective. So from an exam perspective, just know those principles. There might be some multiple questions on the test related to that. All right, let's talk about troubleshooting. Really, it's really, I want to say is you will address every troubleshooting issue pretty much the same. First thing, you got to understand what the problem is. Understand what the problem is and then start to gather that information. Then you want to think through, well, what are those potential causes? You want to see if you can isolate the problem and then implement a solution. So one of the things I used to run into when I used to basically do IT support help desk would be try my best to really understand the problem, really the problem statement, and then gather enough information and then kind of troubleshoot some potential things that could happen in terms of what could it be. So an example might be I'm trying to print and it just won't print. So your problem statement is cannot print. Then you want to start gathering information. Well, some of the questions you may want to ask is, okay, did you just start? Did you do anything different than you might have not done before? So try to get as much information from the individual as best as you can. Then you want to make sure you go through some basics, and I hate to say this, but sometimes it is some of the simplest things. Do you mind just seeing if it's turned on, or they might say, well, the on button's not working. Okay, can you see if it's plugged in? Maybe it came out of the socket, and they would go, oh, you know what? It's not plugged in. Then you would say, okay, well, can you look and see if you ran out of ink, etc. Again, depending what your information you're getting is going to really help you determine the problem. You're going to gather information, you're going to identify those potential causes, and then you're going to test and isolate, and then you're going to implement the solution, whatever that turns out to be. So some of the prerequisites, again, as it relates to the core competencies and the test itself. Troubleshooting is an essential skill for a CompTIA service technician. It's necessary for identifying and resolving issues in new builds and malfunctions, as I brought up before. It's an essential step, which includes verifying and documenting the solution, testing components functionality, inspecting for damages, and consulting logs and tools. You want to document findings, actions and outcomes thoroughly with any service ticket you do. And then you want to also apply the troubleshooting methodology that I talked about in the previous slide. Again, you may get questions around what are some of the things you need to do from prerequisites, again, as it relates to the exam. All right, so this, and I covered this before. So the core one exam objectives. So troubleshooting is a critical skill for CompTIA technicians. I talked about that before. This really requires understanding the best practice and methodologies for problem solving. Whether you're dealing with a newly built system or an existing one, unexpected issues, and applying a structured approach to ensure effective diagnostic and repair. So you really want to think through how are you going to tackle the problem issue, and then once you've done that, you want to make sure you're applying the I call it fit for purpose, really, the right solution to resolve the issue. And again, implementing preventive measures and then documenting those findings are essential to really avoid issues coming back again and maintaining a reliable IT environment. Second core exam objective is really troubleshooting tasks such as how do you configure the BIOS, how do you do that? Again, you must be adept at diagnosing systems and problem solving using tools like logs, status indicators to really help you pinpoint issues. You want to ensure components are correctly configured. Updating software or drivers are common tasks. Effective troubleshooting also involves verifying repairs with tests and obtaining customer configuration before closing a ticket, and then building a comprehensive knowledge aid. So again, that is something you need to make sure from an exam perspective you're able to do effectively and efficiently from that perspective. I didn't cover the BIOS and I didn't cover UFI yet, but I will come to that as it relates to what that really means and how to troubleshoot it from that. Again, from an exam perspective, just really understand these components from there. So, as usual, I follow up with a questionnaire from normally when I go through these chapters. What is the importance of a structured troubleshooting methodology? Again, you might see multiple choice. One of the core answers I've seen, or one of the core questions I've seen, is something around this in some variation. A structured troubleshooting methodology ensures that technicians can systematically identify symptoms, diagnose causes, plan solutions, and verify the problem's resolved, as well as defining. This approach increases the chances of successful outcomes. Question is, what is the difference between DDR4 and DDR5 RAM? DDR4 and DDR5 are types of RAM with different speed capacities. That's the main thing I want to make sure you understand that. DDR4 offers higher data rates and improved performance compared to DDR4, making it suitable for more demanding applications. So again, you see some questions around that. Understand this definition, and you should be good to go. Next one is, how do you troubleshoot a software application that is not responding? I have here, troubleshooting an unresponsive application involves checking updates, restarting the applications or system, and examining basically for error messages or logs to identify the issue. Next question is, how do intrusion detection systems work to protect the network? So you'll notice these are normally known as IDS. So intrusion detection systems monitor network traffic for suspicious activity and will alert you on those items. And they could be more particularly geared to potential threats, allowing them to take action to prevent security breaches. So you could set up these IDS alerts to do many things. It could just alert you, or you could put something in place that's going to allow action to be taken thereafter. What is the difference between a LAN and a WAN? So A LAN is a local area network. It connects devices within a limited area, such as your home office, while a wide area network covers a broad area, connecting multiple LANs over a long distance. So you might have 4 offices, 5 offices, and that's where a WAN comes into play. So LAN is mostly doing that in your home. You'll buy a network router or something like that, and then you'll just use a LAN to kind of connect all those systems within your home. Again, wireless will do the same thing. These are terms for basically for the glossary of terms. Again, the way I tell everyone to use these is just study the terms. What is a motherboard? What is a processor? What does post mean? So again, just to kind of recap, a motherboard, the central circuit board of a computer that connects and communicates with all components. Processor, which is a CPU, the brain of the computer that performs instructions defined by the software. Post is a process that checks that the hardware components during boot up, ensuring that everything is functioning correctly before the system starts. Solid state drive, SSD, a type of storage device that uses integrated circuits, store data, which is offering a faster access than traditional hard drives. That's something to remember. So I talked about UFI. Again, UFI is firmware that initializes hardware during the booting process, and it offers a more modern and a flexible interface than traditional BIOS. Local area network, we covered that before, a network that connects devices within a limited area, such as home. Wide area network, a network that covers a broad area connecting to multiple LANs over long distance. Firewall, a network security device that monitors and filters incoming and outgoing traffic based on security rules. Encryption, the process of encoding data to prevent unauthorized access. Error logs, records of errors and issues that have occurred within the system for troubleshooting purposes. Thank you for attending again, Chapter 3. As always, anything you want me to cover more, please reach out to me at Dr. Paul Morrison at pkmcyberconsultants.com for additional information.